guys, Isabella here, and welcome back to the channel, or the series that I'm calling Angel Talk. So, you guys, okay, today's video, we are going to be talking about a personal experience that I just had this beginning of September in New York Fashion Week, and we're going to talk about if this has been overhyped, what the pros and cons are of New York Fashion Week, and the real stuff about New York Fashion Week. So let's give a little bit of a backstory. So I think for a long time I've wanted to go to New York Fashion Week. I think was it in like 2020 when I believe, I can't fully remember my dates, but I remember in 2020, I believe, I wanted to go to New York Fashion Week. I didn't think it was like a possible thing. And like growing up, I didn't really know what that was necessarily. And so when it finally clicked to me that it was something accessible to me, I was like, okay, I can actually go to this. So for a long time, I had this like daydream that I could get invited to shows and I could go and it would be this magical experience. And I finally got the opportunity to go. However, even with its fun, I feel like there's a lot of things that we should talk about, because since it was my first time going to New York Fashion Week, there were some things that I was not aware of, and there's some things that I am aware of now that are really, really good, and some things that I'm like, ooh, absolutely not at all. So I wanted to talk about just the realities of New York Fashion Week, and this is, again, for anyone who's a content creator and wants to go, or even someone who's not a content creator and wants to go, because yes, you don't have to be a content creator to technically go. So let's get into it. So first of all, let me talk about my backstory of like actually going. So the 10th, I left stupid early. Like I left ridiculously early. I was going to be gone for a short time. So pretty much like the 10th, that entire day, the 11th, and then early in the morning on the 12th, I was leaving. So I got there and I learned the hard way that flying in and then getting ready and going to shows, no. Don't ever, if you can avoid it, please avoid it, because I was so exhausted. It was unreal. So I got in, I was tired, I got all my outfits out, I was ready to go. And again, no big deal. I went shopping a little bit and I ate, and it was really intense. And I did not expect it to be that intense at all. So that night, I actually skipped out on 2 shows and I went to one and then an after party. And for my first experience alone, a couple things that we need to talk about. Getting around is so expensive, and I don't think anyone talks about how damn expensive it is to go to things like this. I already knew that it was going to be expensive, but again, I don't think it's like talked about enough how expensive this stuff is, because it's not cheap at all. It is not cheap to go and do this kind of stuff. But for me, I thought with like networking and connecting with people and the content, it was valuable for me to go to something like this. But yeah, anyways, I fell asleep. I was exhausted. I went to a show, after party, and then that was it. So then the next day I got up, I went to Soho. One of the shops that I went to was broken into, which was really bad. I went up to a couple of events, pop-up events, pop-up shops. Wow, I don't know, I'm mixing up those two. And then I went to a couple shows that night as well, and then I relaxed and hung out. So let's talk about the positives of this. So the positives was networking. I honestly loved it. I think especially if you really want to take it seriously for actually networking and connecting with people, I completely think it's a good idea. For me, I actually met other models, which was really cool. I sat next to some really fascinating people. I met really cool people. Like, it was honestly awesome, and especially for someone who hasn't done something like that in a long time, I thought it was wild. And especially because I really am trying to really jump into the fashion area hard with my content creation. I thought it was wonderful to step into that world. And also because me personally, I want to someday have my hands in a clothing line or a development of something like that. I wanted to see this kind of world physically and just witness people that are involved with this industry. So I recommend it. I personally, actually, one thing really cool, fucking love this. I actually got connected to 2 different designers, and they asked me to come back to their showrooms to try on pieces and literally like even wear some of their pieces. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? Yeah. Me. You want me to wear your stuff? Like, I blew my mind, right? Sadly, I flew out already, so I couldn't. But again, I made connections to where those designers, when I go back in New York, they want me to tell them when I'm back, because they want to invite me back to their showrooms, which is nuts. Again, like that wouldn't have happened, I don't think, had I not have gone. What's another really cool thing too is just seeing the fashion, seeing the trends. I think it's another great thing. And again, like overall, just networking is wonderful. Another great thing is the content. The content is just top notch. If you're able to shoot content, you can shoot the city, the restaurants that you're at. Like it literally is like 2 days for me packed of content that I can use for a long time now, which is really awesome. And so again, like the content, especially if you're a creator, that is a huge incentive. And for me, like it was a work trip. It was completely good for work. Yeah, well, yes, it's fun. Like again, like I worked all of that. And so as a content creator, it is very, I think, beneficial if you're able to go to something like that. Now, of course, again, as we know, the additional fun is like seeing places that you usually don't. Like for example, being able to go into stores that you usually don't, seeing events that you've never seen before, going to fashion shows, right? Because that's a big deal. And the shopping, the food, like that is a whole experience. But I want to talk about the shitty parts of this. So let's first of all get this out of the way, because I don't think that enough content creators talk about this. There is not enough reality that is displayed with a lot of influencer events, a lot of like creator stuff, and a lot of stuff that influencers are involved with. And it really drives me fucking crazy, because for me, like I will say this till the day I die, aesthetic and reality should be coexisting. We can have aesthetic, we can have those perfectly curated photos or the content or the cool vlogs, like that's great, but we do need to have an ounce of reality. And I think we should be posting more realistic stuff, because when we have people, like for me, for example, watching vlogs for years about New York Fashion Week and not realizing what it actually is requiring of you, the money, everything, like it's unrealistic, and it puts these unrealistic expectations in our heads. And then as content creators, when you actually get to where you're going, and just even as a person that's just going in general, you have this unrealistic expectation of how this is going to go, and then you feel defeated. You feel like you're not good enough as a person or a creator, an attendee, whatever the case may be, a designer even, and it just absolutely crushes your dreams, I feel like, simply because content creators, in my opinion, and again, this is not to just dog everyone, but I don't think content creators have been real enough. That's my issue. I didn't really realize this too. Fashion Week, many people can go to, and you don't have to be a content creator. So I think there's different levels to it too. So Fashion Week, anyone can technically like go. And so what I mean is if you were someone that genuinely wanted to buy a plane ticket, get a hotel or an Airbnb, and hang out in Soho for a couple of days and take cool outfit photos, you're technically a part of that, okay? You're a part of that aspect because people are taking photos. There are models walking around. There are photographers that are walking all over trying to take photos of the coolest trends and outfits. Like, you're technically a part of that. Now, again, you have to get like invitations or get, access to shows. But in all reality, if you want to go and be a part of a lot of fun things that other content creators are a part of, you absolutely can. I didn't know that. I literally thought that it was this, and again, it is a lot of work to get into some of the shows, but I thought I wouldn't have access to majority of things. And I realized that there's actually more out there for people to go to that are even smaller content creators who don't have a lot of connections and influence than I even realized, and it blew my mind. But again, I don't think we talk about that enough, and it gives this illusion that it's hardly inaccessible, and I don't like that at all, because I feel like it's giving like gatekeeping a little bit. Everyone should be able to experience Fashion Week stuff. For me, Fashion Week meant witnessing art, that was really cool. Being able to shoot in an area that I love for content, wearing really cool pieces that I wanted to do because I love dressing up, right? That, it meant a lot to me. And for some people, it might mean more with like you are an aspiring creator, you're aspiring designer, and there's many reasons why someone would want to go, but I feel like just the vocalization of how it is a little bit more accessible than what we think would encourage people who want to go, and then people who might not actually connect with it as much not feel like they should go because it's this like high value thing to attend. You see what I'm saying? So let's talk about expensive and how much this shit costs. Okay, because I'm going to be completely transparent with you guys. Again, I've talked about being real, and this is what I want with this series, is just to be completely realistic. So I don't think people understand how expensive this shit is, and especially if you want to go to shows and make this into a full ordeal, it is quite expensive. And I'm going to tell you right now, honestly, unless you really think it's worth it, or unless you're going to make this into like a bit of a vacation, I mean, or if you're working a lot through it, I would not recommend going at all. And the reason why I'm saying this is because I am going to be honest, and again, this is a decent amount. I'm not trying to brag. I know I'm a very blessed, fortunate person, but I want to vocalize how much I spent. Now, I did go a little extra with like, I purchased like a bag and a dress, and I went out to dinner, like really nice dinners. But from Ubers and going to all these places and doing all these things, I probably, even with some funds for hotel, and this isn't including flight and hotel, mind you, this is just additional things at the hotel, I probably spent a little over $800 that weekend. So yeah, it was quite expensive. Now, something that I also want to mention too is we see, I think, two different perspectives majority of the time with New York Fashion Week. We either see the visuals of the people who have money, so like they can pay for a driver, they can blow a ton of money on however long they're going to be there, and it's not that big of a deal to them. And while yes, it's a lot of work for them because they're going to so many different shows and events, it's still easier, more accessible to them because they have funding to make things easier for them. Stylists, they can have hair and makeup on there, so literally they're sitting in a chair posting up their content while their face is getting done. You know what I mean? And then we have another side where we have content creators who are busting their ass and maybe spending way too much money, or even money that they're not making as a content creator, and they don't have all those things, but they're giving the illusion that it's perfect, easy, and completely fun. And again, that's not to say that it isn't fun or it isn't a great experience, or some of these creators do have money to do it, because there are many creators that absolutely do. But what I'm saying at is there's too much of an unrealistic perspective shown on us, to where myself, I didn't think that it was going to be this hard. I didn't think it was going to be this overwhelming, but it was. And so I think it's good to have these conversations too, because I actually got anxious, I got uncomfortable, and I got really like frustrated with myself because I couldn't get the proper shots, or I couldn't go to the show, or I was exhausted, or shit, I really need to eat today. Like, there was so much going on. But again, most of the time when you see people posting about New York Fashion Week, you see people posting about like all the good and not any of the reality of it. Another thing I want to talk about with this as well is the events and some of the things that I attended weren't as good as I thought that they were going to. Now, again, this might actually irk some people, but there were some things that I attended. Oh my God, they were overglorified. Holy shit. There were some pop-up shops and events. And again, I'm not going to say specifically who, because I'm not like, I do like the brands. I just think that they can improve. And I feel like it was partially the creators that overhyped it a little too much, not necessarily the brand's fault. There were some things or some pop-up shops or events where they were way too overhyped, to where I thought it was going to be like, okay, photo op, more creators there, and it was going to be fun. But it was like, honestly, kind of people standing around, and it was very boring and basic, right? And I'm going to be absolutely honest with you too. I went to an after party as well, and I honestly thought it was so fun. I thought it was great. But I'm going to be honest, it was short-lived, because after so long, then it kind of got more like it was dragging ass a little bit. I thought it was a little bit boring after a while. And again, that's not to dog on the brands. That's not anything like that. But there's a lot of creation of the excitement through the content of some of these events. And again, like I went to Coach Pop-Up Shop, and it was amazing. I stopped by Steve Madden, and a different Steve Madden, of course, because one of them was broken in. Loved it. And there's so many different little events and things that I forgot to capture because I was trying to live in the moment, that were truly so fun. But there were some things that I attended where I was like, okay, I saw people posting up about this, but like, nothing's like, it's boring. Like, I could have gone to my hotel and ordered a pizza in, and that would have been more exciting. You know what I mean? So I wanted to talk about that too, because don't think that it's your fault if you're like, that wasn't really that great. That's okay. Some people have overhyped it. One thing though that I want to express big time, there are a lot of free things. Unless you're invited, and like, unless you're specifically invited, unless you're a +1, don't fucking buy a ticket for shit. Don't do it. I don't recommend it at all. I saw so many options for people to purchase tickets for certain things or certain events. Not worth it. Oh my God. Unless you're actually specifically invited to things, which again, there's many events that they have tickets, but you can get like press passes and be invited. You do not need to go. You do not. There are so many things around Soho that are so cool that are completely for free because, again, the Coach event, completely for free. All the pop-up shops down in Soho, which is mainly where the New York Fashion Week stuff happens, completely for free. So if you are a newbie or if you're a beginner, do not waste your money. Save your money for meals. Save your money for Ubers. Please do that because I really think that there's some events there were some things that were way too overhyped and they were not worth it. Yeah, that's just kind of a little bit of my personal experience with New York Fashion Week. And again, I just want to kind of say that, like, I've fallen into the trap of only posting the really sparkly, shiny shit. And I realized that it was actually harmful to me and to other creators as well when I only showed that. And again, like I said, we can have aesthetic and reality coexist, but I think we need more of that because we are going to have realistic expectations for other people. And I think it's just healthier. I think it's healthier to be real about when things are difficult. So another thing, you guys, you are literally, if you're going to be doing this, you're going to be either on the subway or you're going to be in an Uber and you're going to be going all over the place. And that is so fucking expensive. Oh my God. It is so expensive trying to make sure that you get to an Uber on time, make sure you get to a show early enough. Then not to mention too, like, it literally is just exhausting. If you want to wear cool shoes or high heels, bring an extra pair of shoes because your feet are going to be blistered. I'm going to tell you right now, I was actually trying to find a taxi at one point. I had these really cool boots on. I literally rubbed my feet raw. It was so painful because of the shoes that I was wearing because I didn't bring a change of shoes at this point. And again, some of the people that are wearing certain painful shoes, either they willingly blister their feet or they immediately have drivers and people or, you know, that can quickly take them away so that way they don't have to walk, or they have a change of shoes. But again, no one really fucking talks about that. With all these things being said, I think my biggest point with this video was just to kind of be like, hi, if you want to go to New York Fashion Week, go. It's attainable. You can go and make it a cool trip. You don't have to be a full-time creator to do it. It can be a fun time where you bring a couple outfits, go with a couple of your girlfriends, take some content, go down to some restaurants in Soho. You don't even have to go to any shows. Go to some pop-up events, see what's free. DM a couple brands if you're able to see if they have access to any events that they are hosting. And that's it. Or if you want, you can go hard. You can go and try and get invited to shows. You can do all of that, but have realistic expectations. Also, budget as good as you can. Don't spend money that you don't need to. You don't need to spend money on tickets or specific events. Go to everything that's free. If you can, go with friends and split hotel and first. So it's cheaper and it's a really cool girls' weekend for you. But I wanted to make this video, it's just a little bit of a reality check how some creators have pushed this mentality of Fashion Week as completely glamorous, and either it is glamorous for them because they have a lot of money and it's easier, more convenient, or people have just fallen into the trap of focusing on aesthetic too much. And I wanted to just kind of say that, hey, if you are someone that has that big old dream like I have, and I still have because I want to go again, I fully recommend it. But have realistic expectations, budget very well, don't spend extra money that you don't feel like you have to, don't feel peer pressured to buy things or do certain things that other creators are doing because, again, that's just not very feasible. Do not get stuck on the FOMO because some of the things that are being promoted or some of the events that you could go to, they're not all of that. So go to free things, have fun, have time to yourself, please eat if you're going to go, and that's about it. But that was it for today's video. I know that was really chill, but again, if you guys want to see any of my New York Fashion Week vlogs and my personal experience and just, how it was for me, I will post it up. I will have it linked in the description below as well if you guys are watching on the channel. And yeah, that was it for today's episode. So I will see you guys in the next one. Stay glow, my beautiful queens. Love you. Bye.